So I want to clean up a few things before we move forward. Let's first go into the constant class and go into the authorization class. And this is not super user authority, but it's super admin authority. So I'm going to select this and right click and go to refactor and then rename. And I'm going to change this to admin. So this is one thing. So this is supposed to be super admin authorities, right? So from admin authorities to super admin authorities. So next I want to go into the implementation, and let's go down to this method. So as you can see here, this definitely can use a little bit of refactoring, and that's what I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can do here. So the first thing is, as you can see, I'm making this call multiple times, the one for the new username and the new email. You can see it's defined in all in a separate scope. So I don't want to keep doing this because this can affect the performance of the application because I'm calling the database too many times. So I'm gonna put those out of the scope. I'm gonna remove this and then go here and let me paste it here. So I'm defining those outside of the scope of this, and let's see here. So I'm gonna put this down. So I'm defining it at the beginning of the method here, and I'm gonna do the same thing for the email. So I'm gonna go here and then grab this one. So now they're defined at the beginning of the method, so they're like available in the entire scope method. So I'm just gonna pass the same one here, so I don't need this anymore. So by the new username, as you can see, this is exactly the same thing, so I'm just gonna pass this in. So let's go here, clean that up, and then pass this in here, and the one for the user by new email, and that would be this one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pass it here. I don't need this anymore, and pass it here. Next, I want to fix those messages. As you can see, if you scroll up a little bit, this is username exists exception. So username already exists. Second one is email exists. So this should be email. Oops. Email exists, and it's gonna be the same for this one. Well, this is already correct. So email already exists for the email exists exception, and username exists exception is username already exists. So that looks good. Now I'm gonna put those in constant. So I'm gonna right click and then go to refactor and then go to introduce constant. And I'm just gonna do username already exists. Okay, and let's see, username already exists. I'm gonna also pass it here. I don't need to introduce this new string anymore. So username already exists. I think there is another user not found. Okay, so I'm also gonna do the same for this. So we're gonna come back to this in a second. So let's go down here and let's do the email exist. So we're just gonna do email exist for this. So select it, right click, refactor, and then introduce constant, and that's gonna be email already exists, and we're also gonna pass it down here. Okay, so email already exists, and no user found by username, and I'm just gonna also put this in a constant. So refactor, introduce to constant. No user by username, that should be fine. And I also want to put this, let's see, up here. So no user found by username. I don't need to introduce this string anymore. I'm gonna do the same down here for the actual exception. Okay, so for now, I'm just gonna do the same for this, returning found user by username. This is for debugging purposes. You don't necessarily have to put this one here on line 58, but I'm just keeping it here just for debugging purposes. So found user by username, that should be fine. And that I'm gonna remove this. I'm not gonna leave this, so I'm not gonna introduce a new variable for this. So I'm just gonna keep it here, just so we can see what the password is as we develop this. But I'm gonna go ahead and remove this once we get this to go. So now I'm gonna finish those methods. As you can see, they're all returning null. So I'm gonna grab the repository and go down here. I want to call the find all. So find all. Okay, so that's going to return the list of users. And here I want to call the find by username. So that's going to be this one. And I'm just going to pass in the username in there. And then down here, find by email, I'm going to do a similar thing. So repository.find by email. And I'll just pass in the email address in here. And I think that should be everything. Let me double check. So looks good. This looks good as well. And let's see here. We can also introduce another variable for this because we're passing in like an actual string. So I'm going to introduce a new constant for this. So let's call this constant. So this is a path. So I'm going to name it something else. So let's call it the default user image path. Okay, you can really name this whatever makes sense to you, so that should be fine. So I think this is everything for now. And one other thing I can do, I can introduce a new constant class for all of those constants so that I can remove them from this class. So I'm just gonna copy everything from here. Actually, I'm gonna cut everything from here, and then I'm gonna go into the constant. I'm gonna create a new class, and let's call it user implementation. Oops. Constant. So like this. And here we can just paste all of those constant. Okay, so we put them in this very specific class. And then here we can just import everything. So let's go here and more action. Import. So what I'm gonna do here now, since I know I'm gonna be using everything in there, I'm gonna put a star here, and then I'm just gonna allow the static import here. And more action, allow static import. So that should fix the problem, because I'm gonna import everything in this class is pretty much gonna be used in the implementation class. So it makes sense that I bring in everything from that class. So now our class looks a lot cleaner, as you can see here. So I think this is all the cleanup we have to do for now. We'll continue to do that just so we can maintain the code as we code. But we don't want to have to, have to deal with like a bunch of refactoring, and because that's just going to break more things. So if you can do it, clean up the code as you go after every feature implementation, that can save you a lot of time and a lot of bugs too, because the code is so clean and so organized. So in the next lecture, we're going to go ahead and see if we can test everything from this function right here, the register function. So we're going to test all the features, like all the scenarios where if you put in the same username or the same email, then it should throw you on there. So I'll see you in the next lecture.